You can support In the Past Lane with a donation via Patreon or PayPal. Just go to inthepastlane.com and click on support. Thanks.
Whoa, hit the brakes. You've arrived at the #1 drive-by for American history. Welcome to The Pit Stop. Brought to you by In the Past Lane, the podcast about history and why it matters. Here's Edward T. O'Donnell, your host and historian at large.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Pit Stop, your Monday morning source for history on the go in just about 5 minutes. If you're new to the podcast, we offer this feature every Monday morning, in addition to our regular full-feature episodes. Here's what happened in American history the week of September 3rd, 2018. September 4th, 1846, that's the birthday of architect and urban planner Daniel Burnham, who was born in Henderson, New York. If you've read Eric Larson's best-selling book, The Devil in the White City, you know that Burnham was a visionary who offered a bold and celebratory image of what the modern city could be. Daniel Burnham once said, "Make no little plans." September 4th is also the birthday of the African-American novelist and poet Richard Wright, who was born 1908 in Roxie, Mississippi. Richard Wright was a prolific writer whose works focused on the plight of African Americans in Jim Crow America. His two most famous works were Native Son, published in 1941, and his memoir, Black Boy, published in 1945. Richard Wright once said, "I knew that I lived in a country in which the aspirations of black people were limited, marked off. Yet I felt I had to go somewhere and do something to redeem my being alive." September 6th is the birthday of Frances Fanny Wright, who was born in Dundee, Scotland in 1795. She was a freethinker, feminist, abolitionist, and social reformer, and she shocked a lot of people in the 1820s and 1830s for her radical views, especially those on religion. Fanny Wright once said, "Hired preachers of all religions never do and never can teach anything but what is in conformity with the opinions of those who pay them." Also born on September 6th is another notable American woman reformer, Jane Addams, who was born in 1860 in Cedarville, Illinois. Jane Addams pioneered the settlement house movement in the United States, establishing Hull House in the slums of Chicago in 1889 to offer assistance to the immigrant poor. Jane Addams once said, "The good we secure for ourselves is precarious until it is secured for all and incorporated into our common life." September 8th is the birthday of Charles Guiteau, who was born in 1841 in Freeport, Illinois. Guiteau, of course, was the assassin who killed President James A. Garfield in 1881. And September 9th is the birthday of Colonel Harlan David Sanders, who was born September 9th, 1890, in Henryville, Indiana. He's the founder of Kentucky Fried Chicken, and he was in fact not a colonel. How about events? Well, on September 5th, 1882, workers in New York City staged the first Labor Day parade and celebration. The idea soon went viral, and by 1894, Labor Day had become a holiday for federal workers. If you want the full story, check out last week's episode of In the Past Lane, number 91, on the history of Labor Day. September 5th, 1957, Jack Kerouac published his novel On the Road, a book that captured the wild and countercultural spirit of the Beat Generation. One of the signature lines of this trippy, zany travel epic reads, "I was halfway across America, at the dividing line between the east of my youth and the west of my future." Seems like this is a big week for assassinations in U.S. history. We already noted the birthday of President Garfield's assassin. Well, September 6th, 1901, is the anniversary of President William McKinley's assassination. He was shot by a gunman while touring the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. McKinley's death 8 days later elevated young Theodore Roosevelt to the presidency. Coincidentally, September 8th, 1936, is the anniversary of the assassination of Louisiana Senator Huey Long. September 7th, 1968, 50 years ago, a group of women's rights activists and feminists protested at the Miss America pageant in Atlantic City. It's this incident that gave rise to the myth that women's rights activists burned their bras as part of the protest. It's quite the enduring image, but it never happened. September 8th, 1974, President Gerald Ford announced to the American people that he was pardoning former President Richard M. Nixon for any wrongdoing connected to the Watergate investigation. Let's just say that this was not a popular decision. Okay, time for the last word. Let's give it to Jack Kerouac, whose novel On the Road was published this week in 1957. What is that feeling when you're driving away from people and they recede on the plain until you see their specks dispersing? It's the too huge world faulting us, and it's goodbye. But we lean forward to the next crazy adventure beneath the skies. Okay, people, that's your history fix for the week. Now put it in drive and go make your own history.